So when it comes to a market, I think we passively know what this is when people talking about like even right now with the layoffs and all that stuff, the job market is not good. And then when you're talking about specific like professions, you may looking at the tech market or even specifically the cybersecurity market. You may be looking at the graphic design market, the entertainment market, specifically music, film, stuff like that. We kind of get the gist of what this means, but I think people don't actually know what this means. And this is something that I realize even myself. I have not formally been taught what is a market and what it means to be part of a market, how to navigate it. So let's go ahead and figure out what a market is real quick, and we'll build on this over time. So a market is very similar to a network when you're talking about a collection of people that come to one place. The main difference being that networks and markets have express purposes. So you're even like your personal network as well as with technology. The whole point is for them to be directly connected versus a market, more so a marketplace. The whole purpose is to buy and sell stuff. So your Walmarts, the Targets, and the like. And when you have a collection of markets, primarily markets that buy and sell pretty much the same things, that's when you have what's called an industry, something else that I think we passively know what it means, but not quite. So you'll have a gaming industry, the music industry at large, we tend to say entertainment industry, the tech industry, the cybersecurity industry, but we don't necessarily know what this means. We'll focus on industry, I think, in its own video, but that's kind of like the evolution of it. So you have the Targets, the Walmarts, Best Buys, and other like GameStops and stuff like that. You go to those places specifically to buy and sell stuff. So it's a market or marketplace. Now, sticking primarily with jobs because of the layoffs and things, but just in general, the markets or a market, like anything else, can be filled to the brim. For example, if you want to go into government work, the best idea would be to go to the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, for those who don't know, because all of the government entities are pretty much based there for obvious reasons, because DC primarily. And even then, you have consulting firms, tech firms, or whatnot that are based in that area that may provide services to regular companies like, say, like Nike, clothing brands, and other tech brands that don't have anything to do with the government. But some of these consulting firms also have a whole other side to them that operates kind of like its own separate company where they specifically help government entities and other like branches of the government. So you can work for a consulting firm and have a client that is like, say, Department of Defense itself. Even specifically with that, you have like the different branches of the military. Each branch can be a client to a consulting firm. You have, let's say, Department of Energy, things like that. Now, the thing is, people say not to move to DC, Maryland, Virginia, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas. They say not to move these places, LA, New York. Like even the stereotypically, if you wanted to get into music and acting primarily, but anything that's to do with entertainment, those whole blueprints to go to LA. These days, primarily for Black Americans, our version now would be to go to Atlanta, but stereotypically, you're supposed to go to LA. But people say that's going to be very tough. And their whole reasoning is that every other person is trying to be a songwriter, rapper, singer, actress, whatever the case is, right? What they're saying is that that market is full. You already have to take into consideration that the market is filled with professionals. Like your Kerry Washingtons, your Denzel Washingtons, your Viola Davises, and list goes on. And these are pros. These are people's go-tos because they already have a reputation. You're coming in trying to get to that level of notoriety and that level of success as a newcomer. When you look to the left, right, front, back of you, you have other people trying to do the same thing. That's when it's going to be tough to stick out because it's a filled market. The same way if you was to go to DC and you say you want to get into government work, it's very much possible. And the government, technology wise, is so behind. So I think that opportunity is always going to be open for the most part. But not only are people saying, like, in terms of people, population, the DMV area is just filled so much to the brim. But also, when it comes to those government jobs, that market in particular is pretty full, right? If you try to get a government job, a lot of people are trying to switch over to get government jobs these days due to the security that it provides once you get past the probationary period. And even if you don't become a direct government employee, you can still, like I said, with consulting firms, do work for government entities that gives you that same type of security. If you do anything tied to the government, you're not going to be laid off. So you get that has a target on his back, which means everyone's going to go after it. So what makes you more eligible and better suited for whatever tech roles, consulting roles, and things like that, that you can stick out from the other hundreds of applicants and get a call back, get an interview, and actually get picked up for that opportunity. That's the hard part when it comes to navigating a market. This is where we're going to introduce marketing, because a lot of people, myself included, I used to want to go into marketing, still kind of do in a version, but it's not in my like top of my priority list anymore. But marketing, I always confuse marketing with advertisements, not realizing that advertising was a form of marketing. But let's take a step back real quick. So you're in a market. Is you and a bunch of other people that are in the same place trying to get to the same thing, right? Jobs, again, things like that. Now, again, you have hundreds, if not thousands, and these days, because of technology, you're dealing with a global market. People can live outside of your respective country and do work that's based in your country. So that only made the competition more stiff because now you got people that can get paid extremely well, especially depending on the currency that is used in their country. Like here in America, the dollar is still the strongest in the world, to my understanding. We'll see how long that lasts. But as of right now, I think it's still the strongest. So let's say for someone that was based overseas, say in Europe, using a currency that's not terrible, but it's not as strong as ours, if they're getting paid in American dollars, they're probably going to be considered a whole lot more rich compared to the currency that they use back home if they're working for an American-based company. So we like take those factors consideration and a bunch of other things. It makes competition super stiff. You know what I mean? It just makes it so much harder to stick out because now we're not just talking about, well, how are you going to stick out and work for a company in your city, in your neighborhood, even as far as your state. No, now you're talking about like literally people that you've never seen. You don't know what they look like. You don't know what language they speak. You don't know nothing about these people. And I can have competition in my line of work, you in your line of work, for someone that's even in Asia, for all we know, depending on their line of work and if they can work remote. And if they can, then your competition just got much harder to navigate because it's just the pool just got much bigger. The pool of applicants that these companies can pull from when it comes to like candidates and stuff just got a whole lot bigger. So the whole point of marketing within the market is to stick out. It's just like with Naruto. For those who remember when Naruto was initially trying to learn the Rasengan, and Jiraiya, he took like a paintbrush type thing and drew a dot on Naruto's hand. And his whole point was, well, before I drew that dot on your hand, you didn't know where to focus. Your eyes were most likely just wandering, all over the piece of paper or over your hand, right? Because there was no focal point. But once he drew that dot on the paper, it was actually on a piece of paper. Once Jiraiya drew that dot on the paper and on Naruto's hand, Naruto was honed in on that dot because it stuck out. It was something that he had to pay attention to. Otherwise, he would have just been looking all over the place. So marketing works kind of in that same principle. You're trying to stick out from a space that is filled to the brim with a bunch of other people trying to do the same thing you're doing. And you need to be able to stick out in the crowd, which could be a sea of hundreds to thousands of people, if not more, right? That's the whole point of it. And pertaining to business, the whole point of marketing is to get people's attention so that you're more likely to be approached, or you can approach people with opportunities to buy and sell services and products, of course. Now, obviously, if you have a gift for marketing or you just have a certain presence about you, this may not be the hardest thing in the world. There are some people that literally can walk into a building, walk into a room, and opportunities will fly. People will become comfortable with them, will speak to them. Hey, I heard you speak on a panel for a few minutes, or you gave a rebuttal to something that was said in the classroom, or where the case is. You seem like you have a good understanding of this subject matter, where the case is. I want to see if you're willing to collaborate on this. I want to reach out to you, connect with you at some point, yada yada yada. And next thing you know, maybe they make a career out of whatever that opportunity was, or maybe it's a one and done, but now they have another person that they can connect with. One of my favorites when it comes to marketing, and he's become more of a household name these days. He was kind of hated at first, but not so much now. Is DDG. DDG is known to be what's called a troll, which means he just takes like situations that most people kind of outrage at or whatever, and he just kind of makes fun of it. Essentially, he's a jokester, he's a prankster, basically. But as a result of that, he tends to over exaggerate certain situations, whether you know about it or not, if you know the context or not, certain beefs and things like that, to get views. He's a rapper as well as a YouTuber. And YouTubers are known to do what they call clickbait type stuff with their thumbnails and their titles because they know when things sound a certain type of way, it gets people's attention, especially if it's drama based. And it's like, I wonder what's going on here. I don't even know this person, but let me see what's going on with this drama. He's the type that takes advantage of that. A lot of people don't like it, but he's the type that takes advantage of that, and it's been working in his favor. He's extremely successful at a very young age. Because of this, and after we, as just those who know DDG, know of DDG, once we finally caught on to that game, it's pretty much been accepted. He's a marketing genius. Like, even if you don't like him, you have to respect the way that he's able to get people's attention to his music, to his YouTube content, and things like that. Now, something that's unique to DDG and doesn't necessarily apply to like job marketing, things like that, is he's able to still retain a certain level of like mystery and mystique because, like I said, he'll take situations that you may not be fully aware of or you don't know the whole context of, and he'll play on some of those details and blow up something, make it seem bigger than what it actually is. And because of that, it keeps people on their toes because it's like, well, shoot, we know that he's a marketing genius. He's kind of a troll. Like, he'll make something seem so much bigger than what it is. So whatever this situation that he may be addressing, if it's a fake beef, a real one, whatever case it, we don't even know for real, you know? So you just need to kind of wait and see how the situation is going to play out. Like, you can click on the video and think it's going to be something rah, so crazy, and it ends up being the total opposite for all we know. He's the type of guy to pull that. But because of that, he's been able to retain a lot of people's attention for years, and that's what's contributed to his success. That is what marketing does. When you're effective at marketing, that's what it does. Not only does it draw people's attention short term, it can hold their attention or retain their attention long term, and also keep them coming back. So you have a fan base that you build from the ground up, and they're not going anywhere. So that's the benefit of it. Ultimately leads to money, of course, success, all that stuff. So those are the two things I wanted to cover. What is a marketing? Therefore, what's marketing? More so, what was marketing? But to get an understanding of what marketing is, we have to go ahead and cover what a market is. And again, I think that's something that we passively come to understand over the years, but it has not been formally taught. As a schoolboy, I've been in plenty of classrooms. It has not been taught in school. Old heads, to my understanding, generally speaking, I have not been taught about old heads what a market is. Again, I think it's something that we kind of just piece together, but the more I do these videos and I talk about this stuff, the more it just seems better to get the literal, like, concrete definition and understanding of what something is instead of relying on like just context clues and pieces together based on how people say it and thinking that you have the best understanding of it. Because once you get the actual core understanding of what something is, what it means, and potentially what it looks like, you have a better idea of how to navigate it. You may figure out how to learn to use a word in a sentence based off how other people are using it. But if you don't see what the actual meaning of what something is and get a good image of what it is, you won't be able to navigate that situation. So that's the benefit of understanding what a market is, as well as to understand marketing and the purpose of marketing so you can stick out from the crowd and you're not just getting lost in the sea of other people trying to do the same thing that you're doing. You have to find a way to stick out. So we're going to go ahead and leave this here, guys. I hope this video was helpful, understanding what marketing is at the core of it. But before I touch on marketing, we have to understand what a market is. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. If you guys have any feedback for me, throw that at me at the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.